Hello all. Today we are going to discuss about the importance of domain knowledge and where does it come into the picture. Now, domain knowledge is very important for a business analyst. As a BA, when you walk into a project, if you are really familiar with the domain, it's going to help you. But then the question is, will you always be familiar with the domain that you are walking into? When you walk into a new project, they will be dealing with a specific niche domain. Will you be familiar with that all the time? Every time you walk into a new project, will you be familiar with that? What are the chances? The answer to that question is chances are less that you'll be familiar with the domain that they are dealing with. So, say for example, now let me justify why this is the case. Now, let's take one specific domain, banking. Right? Generally, I hear this all the time: BFSI. BFSI. So, what is BFSI? BFSI is banking, finance, securities, and insurance. So, when they say we need a resource for BFSI domain, that doesn't really mean anything because BFSI is everything: banking, finance, securities, and investment. Even when you say banking, doesn't mean anything. There's so many banking: investment banking, commercial banking, and within commercial and investment banking, within commercial or investment banking, there is payments. Within payments, there is again so many uh, segments, and the project that you will be working on might be credit card, it might be mortgage loan application. So these are all niches, the niche segment. We'll be dealing with the niche segment of commercial banking. So you'll not be dealing with the entire commercial banking, but then maybe mortgage loan application or credit card or something really specific like an executive dashboard. So even within commercial banking or investment banking, which itself comes under banking, there are so many segments. So that's the rationale behind uh, my statement, which is you might not be aware of uh, the domain that the organization is dealing with when you walk into a new project. So, when this is the case, you should know how to you should know your way around when you don't know the domain. And how do you do that? So, you have to do your analysis properly, right? So, when you are given an enhancement, always, and I've said this a lot of times in the past, I say this during my training sessions and in a lot of my other videos, and I can't stress this enough. When you walk into a project and the very first time they assign you an enhancement, or any time when they assign you an enhancement, always get connected to an end user as a part of your analysis and get some familiarity with that specific module that is being dealt with. I can't stress this enough. So if you do your analysis properly, that is, you're getting connected to the end user, you're understanding the business process flow, application process flow. If required, you're recording some conversations for future reference. You're coming up with business process flows. If you do this, you can always circumvent this, your lack of domain knowledge, right? And in the case where they are not supplying you with end user, you can always talk to another product owner to get some familiarity of how that module works, where the enhancement is, or a project manager or a reporting manager. Always ask so that you can get that info. That's very, very important. So even in the case where you do not have that domain knowledge and you are able to clear that interview, and then you walk into a project and then you realize this is some sort of a remote rare domain. It could be a something like a metropolitan division, business process flows, and so that deals with all these trains and transportation services, right? It could be something to the effect of some very remote government organization, right? Department of it could be some protective services, some sort of a law enforcement division. So every law enforcement division is different, right, based on the state. So every business, all their process flows will vary because each and every state, they have separate law enforcements, and the state laws are different. So the way they deal with their work is different. So if you get a very remote and this applies to North America. I don't know about other countries. So yeah, so take it with a pinch of salt. So you might get into a very remote domain that there's no way where you could get some familiarity on that. It could be some lift manufacturing company, and you have to have that lift, elevators. So you have to understand all the business process flows, whatever they deal with. So you could or some sort of a manufacturing domain, right? So you can't literally prepare yourself for these domains. So you, as a business analyst, you should be able to deal with the unknown, and you should be able to deal with situations where you don't have enough information. So you should be okay with this. You should not expect a perfect world, right? You don't know. So how am I going to know? That's the question. Okay, let me do my analysis. Let me put more emphasis on analysis. They are not letting me do my analysis. They are not supplying me with end users. Okay, let me go talk to another business analyst or another product owner or a reporting manager and get some familiarity on the module. This is very, very important. In the case where you don't know the domain, you have to go and get familiarity on the fly. It's not rocket science. Sometimes organizations will have learning documents or learning videos or demos. So they might have it in their enterprise portal. So you have to go and get familiar with the business process. They will have some documentations. So you can pour through these documentations and then get that knowledge. And then based on that, start gathering requirements. Now you have some familiarity on how the application works and how the how the business process flow works on a very high level. Now you have some familiarity and you can gather requirements better. So even in the case where you don't know anything about the domain, you should not get nervous. You should not get tentative. You should always make sure that you ask around, and then you're able to do what you're asked. That's very important. How you deal with the unknown is very important for a business analyst, because as business analysts, we always deal with the unknown. So in a nutshell, just to summarize what we just discussed, in the future you will walk into an organization, right? You may be familiar with the domain, you may not be familiar with the domain. It could be situation 1 or situation 2. But in both these situations, which is two ends of the spectrum, you should be able to figure your way out. You should be able to find your way around. And even in the case where you don't have any domain knowledge, you should be able to ask around, put more emphasis on analysis, give some repeated polite requests, connect yourself to an end user, which is you're actually entitled to that. Do that, ask around, and get some familiarity on these modules in the application, get some familiarity on the business process flows, and make sure you're able to do your work effectively and efficiently. Because as a business analyst, you always deal with the unknown. Your intellect will be tested, your intelligence will be tested more than your intellect is going to be tested. And at least that's my personal view. So that's it for today. Hope you are able to get some good information out of this very brief discussion. Please do like my page, subscribe to my video, subscribe to my channel, hit the like button, and if you have any questions, always feel free to comment below. I'll respond in a couple of days. And thanks for your time. Have a nice day.